Previously on Todd Reacts.
Once again, I'm more feminine. All of them, I'm more. This is why I thought I would be scoring. I have these feminine traits, right? It's because of this part of my personality. I'm Isla Fisher. That's who I am in Wedding Crashers. That's exactly who I am. You can see I match with the women more than I do with the men. For every single thing. That is hilarious. Hilarious or pathetic, I'm not sure.
And now for the conclusion.
Okay, so now we're going to go on to the sexism tests. All right, so ambivalent sexism test. The ambivalent sexism inventory is one of the most famous instruments for measuring sexism against women. Based on the work of psychologists Glick and Fisk, the test assesses two types of sexism that, according to its authors, complement each other to reinforce traditional gender roles and patriarchal social structures. More than 15 years of research on the ambivalent sexism inventory supports that this test possesses genuine psychometric characteristics and is both empirically reliable and valid. Extensive research in over 90 countries has similarly established that the ambivalent sexism inventory is valid across cultures. Okay, so we have 22 questions here. Men should sacrifice to ensure the well-being of women. So initially, I would say agree. But men should sacrifice to ensure the well-being of women. But does that mean that we have? Does that mean DEI? I don't know. Men should sacrifice to ensure the well-being of women. I don't know what to say. I'm going to put it there. A good woman should be put on a pedestal. Okay, is this like the 40-year-old version? Putting the pussy on the pedestal? A good woman should be put on a pedestal. Okay, so in how I work, how my brain is wired, if I like a girl, I would definitely put her on a pedestal. I feel like that's how you should treat girls. Obviously, I don't know what I'm talking about because it has not worked for me, but that's how my brain works. Now, I know some girls would take advantage of that. Some girls do take advantage of that. But I feel like if you like a girl, you should put her on a pedestal, and she shouldn't take advantage of that. In an ideal world, I think that's what should happen. So I'm going to say yes. It says a good woman too, so maybe she won't take advantage of you. So yeah, let's say that. So that is I'm maxing out the simp category. Okay, women tease men sexually on purpose. I think that's a no-brainer. Yes, some of them definitely do. I mean, just look at some of the clothes they wear. You know, they got the tits out on display. It's got the short skirts showing the bare midriff, showing the skin. So, yes, they do tease men sexually on purpose. Yes. If a country has compulsory military conscription, that conscription should apply to men and women equally. Okay, so this is an interesting question because, you know, some of these feminists talk about equality, and here we have compulsory military conscription. And women don't have to do that. At least not that I'm aware of. So if they really want equality, then they should also be forced to do this, right? However, I don't think they should be forced to do this. That's just an argument that people make in order to dispute feminist claims of equality, right? So if you're asking me if a country has compulsory military conscription, I don't think women should have to. No. I don't think women should be forced to go in the military. Should be forced to do military service. Yeah. I don't think it's a double standard, but there are double standards for women as well that I believe we're going to get to. So women fail to appreciate all the things men do for them. I mean, some of them do. Not all of them, though. Women fail to appreciate all the things men do for them. Not all the things. So I'll leave it in the middle. How about that? Women should be cherished and protected by men. Once again, I'm doing the simp answer. I think they should be. But you women should not take advantage of that. In an ideal world. Okay, if a man and a woman go out on a date, the man should not necessarily pay. Another double standard. Guys are expected to pay on a date. But I think that's a fine double standard to have. Because men and women are different, and I don't see anything wrong with this. So if a man and women go out on a date, the man should not necessarily pay. No, he should pay. I think he should pay. But once again, the women need to not take advantage of this. So it's a two-way street here. So we have like a double negative again. Should not necessarily pay. Agree? No. Disagree. A woman cannot be happy without a man to look after her. I don't know, to be honest. Now, okay, there's part. Okay, hear me out. Because I'm looking at the first part. A woman cannot be happy without a man. Just think about that part. Forget about the to look after her part. So a woman cannot be happy without a man. How many single ladies are out there? I guess it would depend on their age. But like single ladies over 30? Single ladies over 40? How many of them are happy? I don't know. But then we have this part at the end here, to look after her. So a guy to look after her. I mean, I know a girl could also look after him, but a woman cannot be happy without a man to look after her. So I'm just going to say disagree. But I'm going to do this one. Because I don't know. I feel like it must be, I don't know. I feel like women need men. Need like a boyfriend or something. Maybe I'm sexist. I don't know. We'll figure that out soon. Women have nurturing capabilities that men could never achieve. I believe that, yeah. Men and women are different. We each have our strengths and weaknesses. Generally, And I mean, this is a stereotype. Women have nurturing capabilities. But it's a stereotype for a reason. And I do agree with this. Okay, women seek control over men in long-term heterosexual relationships. I'm sure some of them do. Maybe I'll leave it in the middle. Okay. In an emergency, women should not necessarily be rescued before men. This is another one of those double standards where if there's an emergency, it's women and children first, right? But once again, that is something that I'm completely fine with. That's a double standard that I think is perfectly fair. So in an emergency, women should not necessarily be rescued before men. In emergency, women should not necessarily be rescued before men. I disagree. So that women should be rescued before men. Yes. Women and children first. When women lose fairly, they claim it was due to discrimination. Honestly, I think this is true. Okay? I do have an example. So I remember this one tennis match with Serena Williams. She was playing in a tournament. And she was being a real bitch, okay? That might be sexist, but she was being a real bitch. And the umpire gave her a punishment. And then after the match, she started bitching and complaining, saying that the only reason the umpire gave her a punishment is because she was a woman. And so that's one example. I hate Serena Williams, but that's one example I have. And I mean, it's just one example, but when women lose fairly, they claim it was due to discrimination. Okay, I feel like I haven't been that sexist in the test so far, so I'm going to give my sexist answer. My sexist answer. Women are generally better people than men. Huh. That's a good question. Honestly, I think that's probably true. Generally, at least they used to be. I don't know if they still are. With this new wave of feminism. But I feel like, along with the nurturing aspect, I mean, how many people are in jail? The vast majority have, how many men are murderers? How many women are murderers? Vast majority are men, right? So I think men do the really bad things. So I'm going to say generally, I think they are better people than men. Yeah. Women exaggerate the problems they face in society. Okay, we're getting another sexist answer here. I'm going to say agree. It's because of this new wave of feminism. That's why. That's why I'm saying this. Women exaggerate the problems they face in society. Yeah, because, they're just complaining because they're on their period, right? Women, that's a joke. Women have a special sensitivity that men could never achieve. A special sensitivity? Probably. Women have because, women are sort of tend to be more sensitive than men. So I'll agree with that. Gender equality and equal rights are entirely reasonable demands. Well, the problem with that is that males and females, men and women are different. So how can they be equal if they're different? Right? So that's the problem. But in terms of equality and gender equality and equal rights, those are reasonable demands. I just don't think it's possible because, men and women are different. I'm just going to leave it in the middle. Women are just as rational and logical as men. Okay. Probably, so women are just as rational and logical as men. I'm going to say disagree, okay? But certainly some of them are. But this is another one of those stereotype things where I feel like I'm just going to disagree. I'm going to go there. I'm not going to go all the way. I'm going to go right there. Women seek special favors under the guise of equality. Yeah, like the new wave of feminism, 100%. Special favors under the guise of equality. I'm going to have to say agree. Women are too eager to interpret innocent remarks as sexist. Looks like we got all the sexist stuff at the end here. Women are too eager to interpret innocent remarks as sexist. Well, these days I feel like, yeah. Women are too eager to interpret innocent remarks as sexist. Obviously, it depends. All women aren't the same, but if we're talking, I'm just going to say yes. Women are too easily offended. Sure, why not? Women have a more refined sense of culture than men. Have a more refined sense of culture? a more refined sense of culture? Like, what the hell does this even mean? I don't know. Women have just as much of a sense of honor and duty as men. Do men have like a sense of honor and duty? Probably. I guess that's a stereotype as well. Women have just as much of a sense of honor and duty as men. I feel like, yeah, sure. Like if it involves their family and stuff like that? Probably, right? I don't know. So I'll say yes. Okay, we're done. My sexism results, 82%. What? Did I do bad? Did I get like really bad? Because I feel like I scored really high. Hostile sexism, overtly negative beliefs about women as well as negative stereotypes about them. For example, the belief that women are entitled and egotistical, that women seek unearned privileges in society, okay, or the belief that women seek to tease or control men sexually may all be seen as forms of hostile. Okay, I did answer yes to all of those questions, so I guess hostile sexism. And I scored even worse on benevolent sexism. Attitudes towards women that may seem positive on the surface, but also serve to perpetuate gender stereotypes and gender inequality. For example, the belief that men should protect women. Oh, so I'm not supposed to protect a woman. I'm not supposed to put her on a pedestal. I'm supposed to treat her like shit. That's what I'm supposed to do. Yeah. Okay. No wonder it hasn't worked for me. That women thrive better in nurturing roles. Oh yeah, that's a bad thing, right? Or that women are somehow purer than men may all be seen as forms of benevolent sex. So is it even possible to get a good score on this test? Obviously, probably. Almost every single question I answered incorrectly. Okay, well, I didn't think I was this sexist, but apparently I am. So I clearly have not redeemed myself over yesterday's or 2 days ago video, my homophobia / transphobia video. Okay, well, we have one more overt covert sexism test. So we have another sexism test. So this one, the overt and covert sexism framework, was developed by Janet Spence, Janet Swim. Two Janets? What? Two Janets got together and they're like, both initials are JS, by the way. The two Janets and Robert Helmreich, and can be understood as a complement to the ambivalent sexism test, which we just took. The test examines intentional or visible inequity against women, as well as more subtle and ingrained forms of discrimination. Okay, so after the previous test, I fully expect to perform very poorly on this one as well, because clearly I'm out of touch with the modern female, with the modern woman. So let's do this. Society has reached a point where women and men have equal opportunities for achievement. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like. Did I get it wrong already? Public intoxication among women is worse than public intoxication among men. Well, it depends on how you look at it. If it were men, it would probably end in a fight, right? I guess if it was women, it might end in a fight as well, but I feel like it's worse for women because they get really sloppy. Their clothes are all over. They're ripped. They're showing their skirts are like hiked up, showing their panties. A boob pops out in a cat fight. The girl's weave falls off. Public intoxication among women is worse. I'm going to say yes. So that probably makes me a sexist. If women do not achieve professional success as frequently as men in our society, that is probably because women have other priorities in life. Yeah, I mean, that sounds right. If women do not achieve professional success as frequently as men in our society, then it's probably because women have other priorities, or it's because of the patriarchy, right? I don't believe in the patriarchy. So I agree with this sentiment here. They have other priorities. So that also probably makes me a sexist. Okay. In the past few years, politicians and news media have begun showing more concern for women than is warranted by women's actual experiences. Okay, this is definitely going to be a sexism thing, but I'm going to have to say agree. Come on. Why can't I move this? Okay, it looks like I'm going to get another high sexism score. Women should worry less about gender equality and more about making me a damn sandwich. I honestly agree with this. That's not what the question was. The question was women should worry less about gender equality and more about being good mothers and wives. I think that's a fair thing to say. I don't think... Because like I said, I don't think there can be equality because men and women are different. And what's wrong with worrying more about being a good mother or wife? Right? But this is probably another sexist answer that I just gave. So, am I going to be overt or covert? Probably overt. Gender inequality is essentially a thing of the past in our country. Yes. Well, I mean, I say that, but I also say that there can't be equality. Gender inequality is essentially, but yeah, it's turned into equality and it hasn't really been working. Gender inequality is essentially a thing of the past. On average, women probably have a poorer grasp of economic matters than men. Isn't that where the term girl math comes from? On average, women probably have a poorer grasp of economic matters than men. Honestly, I don't know. I'm just going to leave it in the middle. I don't want to get in trouble. If lines of work that employ mostly women laborers are more poorly paid than lines of work that employ mostly male laborers, that is probably because women's economic output is generally less valuable. So the idea is that women's spending habits are less valuable than men's spending habits? Is that the idea? I don't know how to answer this. Lines of work that employ mostly women laborers are more poorly paid. Is this a long-winded way of talking about the wage gap? The wage gap? Let's just go to the next question. Swearing and obscenity are more repulsive in the speech of a woman than in that of a man. Honestly, this is probably another sexist answer, but I agree with this because men and women are different. And, when I see a girl using foul language, I think that is more repulsive than if a guy does it. I think. But no, I don't. No. I don't completely agree, but I do a little bit. Yeah, I do a little bit. I'm just going through examples in my head of girls swearing compared with guys swearing. Okay, let's do that. A woman should not expect to have quite the same freedom of action as a man. What does this even mean? A woman should not expect to have quite the same freedom. Freedom of action. What does that mean? Freedom of action. A man should not expect to have quite the same freedom of action as a man. Do men have a lot of freedom of action? Once again, let's skip that one. In general, the father should have greater authority than the mother in the bringing up of children. Okay, this sounds like a very old-fashioned, old-timey philosophy here. I don't think so. In general, the father should have greater authority. I don't think so, really. No. Sons in a family should be given more encouragement to go out and make a name for themselves in the world than daughters. This also sounds like a very, very old-fashioned sentiment, and I don't agree with this either. So yeah, let's go to the next one. I think I decreased my sexism score a couple points over the last 2 questions. So that's a good thing. Don't want to hit 100. That would be really bad. The truly great intellectuals in fields like science or math will probably always be men. Once again, men and women are different. And for whatever reason, men seem to excel in science and math, right? Now, it's not to say that women can't, but it's just the truly great intellectuals in fields like science or math will probably always be men. Probably. But there's still going to be women in there. But I think the top will probably always be men, right? At least that's what I think. It is rare to see women treated in a sexualized or derogatory manner on television. Okay, I think that's definitely untrue. Whenever I watch TV, there's always some scantily clad chick on the screen. It's rare, so it's not a rare occurrence. Though I do watch old TV shows, so I don't know if that's true in the current climate. A derogatory manner? What's a derogatory manner? Definitely sexualized, but derogatory? It is rare. It's not rare. Even in this day and age, men still talk over women in the workplace and expect them to take subservient roles. I'm sure there are some guys who are like that. Some men will probably do that. Even in this day and age. Well, yeah. Yeah, even in this day and age. But it says men, not some men. I'll leave it in the middle. Women who have had many sexual partners should expect to be looked down on. Okay. I think I definitely agree with this. Women who have had many sexual partners should expect to be looked down on because you're a slut. Now, okay, this is one of those double standards, right? We talked about double standards in the previous test that had to do with men. And I was fine with those double standards. And this is a double standard that has to do with women. And yeah, I do agree with this double standard as well. However, I would feel the same way about a guy who has many sexual partners. I would look down on him as well. Yeah, so that's just my opinion there. My sexist opinion. Even in this day and age, women are still expected to handle most of the obligations related to cooking, cleaning, and childcare. I don't know. Is that true? Certainly childcare, probably, because they're the ones who are having the kids. They have to have the kids in their womb for 9 months. That's never going to change. Now, the cooking and cleaning part, I think, is probably... I don't think that's true anymore, really. But the childcare part makes sense. Women are still expected to handle most of the obligations. I don't know how to answer this. I guess I'll say sure. That's probably sexist, but like the childcare for sure. In general, it is as if females keep coming up with new problems and issues each time we solve the things they were originally complaining about. Oh, the feminist. Oh, okay. In general, it is as if feminists keep coming up with new problems and issues each time we solve the things they were originally complaining about. They will probably never be satisfied. You betcha. You bet your ass. That's a good question to end on. Okay. I got less than last time. So I'm still above 50 though, for both of them. Overt sexism covers unequal treatment of women that is intentional, visible, and blatant. Overt sexism can easily be documented and pointed out when it occurs, as it is by its nature apparent. For instance, in contemporary society, attempts to construe men's authority or competence as superior to women's are commonly called out as sexism. Covert sexism covers more subtle and implicit forms of sexism that often go unnoticed because they're built into cultural norms. Covert sexism involves the denial of continued discrimination of women, as well as subtle forms of conditioning, hinting that women are somehow less interested in achieving professional success. Okay, well, I don't know if this is good or bad, but this is how I performed on this test.